गुड इवनिंग टू ऑल ऑफ यू। कैसे हैं सब लोग? होप ऑल आर वेल। सो let me start the very interesting topic, that is input tax credit in the GST. This topic has probably highest class in the entire syllabus, and you know that importance of this chapter, it is very much important for practical point of view and also from exam point of view. So make sure all the provision are thoroughly cleared. If you have any question, we'll reply. And meanwhile, uh, I hope, let me see that after a long days, we are together. Correct. So, ठीक है. So, shall we start? Mansa, Viraj, Desai. Topic is input tax credit. So, if we uh, talk about the input tax credit, first tell me one thing, that input tax credit is in the input supply, inward supply or outward supply? Say, we are talking about that Mr. A can take the ITC. He will take the ITC on the inward supply or outward supply? Just my simple question. Whether ITC would be taken on inward supply or outward supply, that is my question. So, correct. When someone purchases the goods or services, which is nothing but the inward supply, it can be input service, or it can be capital goods. But yes, when he purchases something, he will take the ITC on that item. Correct. So basically, whenever we are talking about the ITC, the basic is condition of the section 16 has to be satisfied. Condition of section 16 has to be satisfied. So in the 16, there are multiple conditions. So let me start with the 16. 16 subsection 1 talk about every registered person shall, subject to such condition and restriction as may be prescribed, and in the manner specified in section 49, be entitled to take ITC on any supply of the goods or both to him which are used or intended to be used in the course or furtherance of his business. Said amount shall be credited to the electronic credit ledger of such person. So try to understand what is the meaning. Say, I am providing the training. Okay. So if I'm providing the training, for the purpose of the training, I purchase computers, I purchase this digital pen, I purchase the camera, so that I can provide my outward supply. So the purchase of these items will be considered as for my business purpose. Every registered person. So point to be noted, from 16 subsection 1, it is very much clear that ITC can be taken only by the registered person. Who can take the ITC? Only registered person. Input credit will be available on. Okay, perfect. Very nice point by Mansa. And Mohammad Abdul Rahim, absolutely correct. Mansa correct. Salish Mane correct. And Viraj Desai, why you are not giving the reply? Viraj. So, every registered person shall be entitled to, subject to such condition. It means there would be certain condition. So if we satisfied all the condition, then only we can take the input tax credit. So that regarding the condition, we will discuss multiple condition. Some of the condition are mentioned in the 16.2. Some of the condition are mentioned in the rules. So it means you have to satisfy all these condition and a restriction, then only you can take the ITC. Okay. As may be prescribed, and in the manner specified in section 49. So how to take the ITC? That manner will be specified in the section 49. Entitled to take the ITC charged on any supply. So goods or services are both to him which are used or intended to be used in the course or furtherance of my business. So like I told you, I have given the example of computer, I have given the example of the digital pen, etc. It means these are used in the course or furtherance of business. So I would be entitled to take ITC. Then it says that shall be credited to the electronic credit ledger. In the GST, like I have the bank account. So when I deposit the money, then there would be some credit. And when I withdraw the money, then there would be some debit. Right or wrong? So in the similar manner, that like bank passbook, the GST portal is also maintaining some ledger, out of which one is electronic credit ledger. Electronic credit ledger is nothing but I can say my bank passbook for ITC. Electronic credit ledger, I can simply say the bank passbook for my input tax credit. Is it clear till now? एक बार confirm करें. Please confirm. So any question till so far? Please ask. ठीक है. Perfect Viras. No problem. I will ensure. Good evening, Prerna. And Mohammed Abdul, fine. ठीक है. Now 16.2 you can write, it is very important. I can say all the clauses of 16.2 should be remembered. Very important from exam point of view and also from practical point of view. It has the multiple conditions. We'll discuss one by one. But what is the 16.2? It says that notwithstanding anything contained in this section. So, no registered person shall be entitled to take the credit of any input tax. So, shall be entitled to take ITC in respect of any supply of goods or services or both to him unless. It means they are saying, first point they are saying that 16.2 is overriding to the entire section 16. 16 subsection 2 is having certain condition. We'll discuss one by one. But the condition of the 16.2 is overriding all other condition of this section. It means if you have the conflict, in the 16.2 or let's say another subsection of that 16, then which one will prevail? The 16 subsection 2 will prevail. Okay? Now, it means that if someone is satisfied the condition, then only he can take the ITC. 16 subsection 2 clause A. He is in possession of tax invoice or debit note issued by a supplier registered under this act or such other tax paying document as may be prescribed. So it means one document they have given the name in the clause A. What is the name? Tax invoice or debit note. Tax invoice or debit note. But at the same time they are saying that it can be any other tax paying document as may be prescribed. So I know that you all are the final student, correct? So you have to tell me what any one or two example you can tell me that what could be the another document for taking the input tax credit apart from tax invoice, apart from debit note. Please tell me the name of the two document based on your last exam. You already cleared the last exams, correct? So based on your earlier experience, kindly tell me that which all document could be prescribed in the section 16 subsection 2. Read with the respective rule. विराज इस बार वेट कर रहा हूँ, आपकी रिप्लाई देख के फिर मैं स्टार्ट करूंगा स्टडी, ठीक है? प्रेरणा, मानसा, मोहम्मद, अब्दुल, सैलेश, everyone are requested to give the reply. If you specify the exact name of the document, then it would be appreciated. I do agree. Your answer is correct, Abdul. Your answer is correct. I'm not denying to the answer, but I would need the specific document name. Okay, let me repeat the question. 16 subsection 2 clause A, we have discussed that he is in possession of tax invoice. Let's say I have purchased the goods. So I should have the tax invoice or debit note, and they are saying or such other tax paying document as may be prescribed. So my question is, because we have discussed in length in the inter, so I am asking what could be the name of that document which is being prescribed in the rule 36. You have to tell me one or two name of such other tax paying document. That is my question. One right answer, bill of entry. Thank you. One right answer, bill of entry. The GSTR 2A and 2B is not the condition, beta. 2A and 2B is not the document. It is one of the condition which we will discuss in the next subsequent clauses. But I'm asking, like supplier has given the tax invoice, supplier is given the debit note, Mansa has given the answer that bill of entry. So in the similar fashion, I'm asking any one document ka name which would be required for taking the input tax credit apart from these documents. Delivery note, no. Delivery challan will be issued for the other than supply. It is not a supply. Other than supply, we are issuing the delivery challan. And if we are issuing the delivery challan, then obviously the tax will not goes to the government. It is not a supply. So question of ITC will not arise. So delivery challan is not the correct answer. Mansa, revised tax invoice and tax invoice are same. Chalo, fir bhi, let's say I do agree with your answer, but I need another name. One from everyone. You already have given the answer, so no issue. But I would expect from everyone to give the answer at least one document ka name. Anyway, so this is bill of entry. In case of reverse charge, it is self invoice, right? And like Muhammad Abdul says, some other custom paying document. It could be custom paying document any. I'm not denying to that. It could be ISD invoice. So ISD, that concept is head office transferring the tax to the branches. Then it would be like distributed through ISD. So he should be in possession of the tax invoice or debit note issued by a supplier. Which supplier? Who is registered under the act, or such other tax paying document, which we will discuss in detail in rule 36 sub rule 1. We are going to discuss each and every document. Okay. So now you can see the clause AA, which is highlighted. It means it is the new amendment. What is the clause AA? Detail of invoices or debit note. Which invoice? Which debit note? Referred to in the clause A. It means they are talking about the clause A wala invoice, clause A wala debit note has been furnished by the supplier in the statement of outward supply. So please note one word, that whenever you are using the word GST-R1, please do not say it is written. It is statement of outward supply. It is not the GST return. Which is the GST return? It is GSTR 3B. Perfect. Details of invoice or debit note referred to in the clause A has been furnished by the supplier in the statement of outward supply, and such details have been communicated to the recipient. It means, let's say we are saying one example. The A is a supplier and B is a customer. Okay. A has supplied the goods to B. He has sold the goods to B. So he will issue the tax invoice. Okay. B has the tax invoice. Condition number first is satisfied. Clause A wala condition has been satisfied. Then second condition, it says, clause AA says that he will report such invoice in the statement of outward supply, which is nothing but the GSTR1, and the same has been communicated to whom? To recipient. And what is the mode of communication? What is the mode of communication? Which says that rule 36 sub rule 4 says that mode should be the GSTR2B. Mode should be the GSTR2B. Earlier, if you remember, that might be in your syllabus of inter, we have discussed GSTR2A. But now, after this amendment from 1/1/2022, from 1/1/2022, the ITC would depend only on GSTR2B. GSTR2A is no relevance for taking the ITC by the recipient. Okay, let's read once again. Very, very important. The details of invoice or debit note referred to in the clause A, okay, has been furnished by the supplier. Where furnished by the supplier? In the GSTR1. What is the GSTR1? A statement of outward supply. And such detail have been communicated to the recipient. So supplier will file R1 and it will be communicated in the way GSTR2B, in the form GSTR2B to the recipient. What is the GSTR2B? GSTR2B is simply auto-populated ITC statement. Auto-populated ITC statement in common layman language. I can use the word that GSTR2B is nothing but the input tax credit register, purchase register, in the manner specified in section 37. So section 37 is basically the, it is for the statement of outward supply GSTR1. Now the clause B says, he has received the goods or services. Now, for the purpose of this clause, it shall be deemed. So please note one thing, that whenever the word deemed is added, whenever the word deemed is added, it means it is not actual. So let's say, if I'm saying you are deemed to be the final student, whether this statement is correct, please confirm. Whether this statement is correct, where you are deemed to be a chartered accountant, whether this statement is correct. Please confirm whether this statement is correct. So Mohammed is saying it is incorrect. Why it is incorrect? Because you have to clear your CA final. Then only you can be the chartered accountant. So my point is, please note one thing, whenever the deemed word is added, it has been added multiple places. Whenever the word deemed is added, it means it is not actual, but because of deeming provision. Because of deeming provision, we are treating this. Correct? So it says that recipient should actually receive the goods or services. But for the purpose of this clause, they are saying it will be deemed that such person has received the goods. It means without reading the clause 1, without reading the clause 2 of the explanation, I can say that in the below two situations, they are not actually receiving the goods. They are actually not receiving the goods. They are not receiving the goods actually, and that is the reason they have added the word deemed to be received, because actually they are not receiving. Physically, they are not receiving. So, what are the deeming provision for receipt of the goods? Where the goods are delivered by the supplier to a recipient or any other person on the direction of registered person. So A, B, and C. Let's say there are three party. एक मिनट रुकिए. Let me explain. I hope you this point is already being explained in the place of the supply chapter if it is completed. Place of supply chapter हो गया? Have you done the place? Whether the place of the supply chapter is completed for your syllabus or not? Please confirm. So Prerna is saying deemed C is correct. Please tell whether place of the supply chapter has been completed. Great. So, hope you remember the bill to ship to model. Hope you remember the bill to ship to model. What is the bill to ship to model? In the bill to ship to model, let's take one example and explain once again the bill to ship to model, which is already covered in the place of supply chapter. Mr. A is actual supplier located in Delhi. Mr. B is actual customer located in Maharashtra. Now, B has received one order from Mr. C and who is also belongs to Delhi. What is the example? Example is A is from Delhi, B is from Maharashtra, and C is from Delhi. B is A's customer and C is B's customer. Let's say he has given the order of 1000 pieces of laptop. Let's say, hypothetically assume that he has given the order of 1000 pieces of laptop. Now, B in turn has given the order, the same order is passed on to A because A is the manufacturing company of that laptop. Once everything is completed, then you please tell me, will the goods be sent first to Mr. B and then we will send to C? Or goods would directly goes from A to C? Kindly answer that by which mode goods would be traveled. Will it be from A to B, B to C, or it will be directly from A to C because both are in Delhi? एक बार आंसर करें प्लीज. Clear? What about rest? Only few reply has been received. Absolutely correct. So it means the bill would be like A will raise the invoice to B. Similarly, B will raise the invoice to C. But the movement of the goods, but the movement of the goods is directly from A to C. So in this example, Mr. B never received the goods. Whether Mr. B actually received the goods, the answer would be no. Whether Mr. B actually received the goods, not at all possible. And Mr. B has the inward supply, has the tax invoice on which there would be some GST. Question comes whether B would be entitled to take ITC because he has not received the goods. So therefore, he cannot satisfy the condition of the clause B that goods or services has been received. He cannot satisfy. As a reason, the explanation says, in case of the bill to ship to model, it will be deemed. It will be deemed that Mr. B, who actually not received the goods, but it will be deemed that he has received the goods. And by virtue of the deeming provision, Mr. B would be entitled to take ITC. Now the second explanation, before moving to the second explanation, I hope everyone are clear. So when I will ask the question at the last, kindly give the reply, sir. Is it clear to all? सॉरी मैंने क्वेश्चन बाद में देखा आपका कि रिपीट द क्वेश्चन प्रेरणा। मेरा क्वेश्चन यही था कि क्वेश्चन भी कंप्लीट आंसर भी कंप्लीट बिफोर मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन आई विल आस्क अनदर क्वेश्चन बिफोर मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट आई विल आस्क अनदर क्वेश्चन बट प्लीज कंफर्म दिस इज क्लियर टू ऑल what if the C is the branch then who will take the ITC B head office okay now Mansa is asking another counter question to me no problem Mansa is saying if B is the uh, if C is the branch of B, who will take the ITC? See, in the GST, you have to, before replying to this question, you have to tell me that whether they have both separate GST number or not. The answer would be yes. I'm assuming that because one is in Delhi, one is Maharashtra, they both have the separate GST number, right? They both have the separate GST number. Schedule 1. Remember Schedule 1 Para 2, which talks about supply between distinct person is also treated as supply of the goods or services, even though the payment has not been received. Even though the payment has not been received. So, without payment, Schedule 1 talks about the 4 transaction which is considered as supply. Out of which Para 2 is saying that if there is supply between one GST number to the another GST number, it will treat it as deemed supply. So therefore, in this question, answer would remain same because A has transferred the stock to C, A has raised the invoice to B. Then obviously B will have to raise the another invoice. B have to raise another invoice on C because he has the invoice, but that goods has not been received. So basically, he can treat that goods has been transferred. So it will be treated as deemed supply by virtue of the Schedule 1, and therefore he has to charge the tax. And ITC can be taken first by B, and based on this tax invoice, ITC can be taken by C branch also. Is it clear? Very good question. I hope it is clear. Let me move to the next clause, clause 2. Clause 2 says that similar to the build to ship to model for goods, the question come, can build to ship to model for services is possible? The answer is yes. Whether build to ship to model for services is possible, answer is 100% yes. Let's say there is a requirement of repair of computer. Okay. So I have purchased that computer or laptop from Dell and it is in warranty period. It is in warranty period. Then I am, let's say, purchase the computer or laptop from Dell. So Dell has authorized dealer. Okay. Now, authorized dealer is providing the service. But for that service, he will raise the invoice to whom? But for that service, they will raise the invoice to Dell, but to whom they have provided the services? To Mr. A. Whether Dell has actually received the goods or services, answer is no. Whether Dell has actually received the services, answer is no. So, can the Dell take the ITC, the invoice raised by that particular dealer on Dell, because service has been given to some another person? So the question comes whether Dell can take the ITC or not because of the explanation 2. It says that where the services are provided by the supplier to any person on the direction and on account of the such registered person. So Dell, who is a registered person, it will be deemed that he has received the goods as well as he has received the registered person has received the goods or services. This particular point, clause 2, was not there in the law since beginning. It was inserted later stage. On 1st Feb 2019, it was added. It means if anyone asks any question in future, can build to ship to model is possible for services? Answer would be yes. And if he asks counter question where it is written, so indirectly you can tell the condition of receipt of services is nothing but the build to ship to model. I hope it is clear to all. Clear? Next condition. Clause A, clause double A, clause A, clause double A, and clause B has been completed. 3 conditions we have completed. Now the next condition is clause BA. It says that details of ITC in respect of said supply, which is communicated to recipient under section 38, it means GSTR 2B, has not been restricted. Has not been restricted. Okay. Now, how it is not been restricted? So for that, we need to read the section 38. It says that it talks about multiple points we will discuss when we will reach to the section 38. But for the time being, it simply says the ITC which has been communicated in the form of GSTR 2B should not be the restricted one. So which condition will tell that it is restricted or it is not restricted? That we will discuss in the analysis part of this clause BA. Subject to the provision of section 41, the tax charge in respect to the supply has been actually paid to the government, either in cash or through ITC. So one thing is clear, that payment of tax can be made. Payment of tax can be made through input tax credit as well as through cash ledger. It's your choice. It's the choice of the supplier. If he like to use the ITC, he can use the ITC. If he like to pay the tax through cash, so he can pay the tax through cash. There is no condition. However, we will discuss when we will go into the deeper part of this chapter. Probably some condition would be known to us for this particular clause. Now, the last condition says that he has furnished the return under section 39. What does it mean? He has furnished the return under section 39. So please tell me the last clause D is on the supplier or on the recipient. So the last condition basically that talking about that he has furnished the return under section 39. So that condition is on the supplier has to furnish the return under section 39, or the recipient has to furnish the return under section 39. Kindly tell me who has filed GSTR. Section 39 is nothing but the GSTR 3B. Section 39 is nothing but the GSTR 3B. Okay. Who has furnished the GSTR 3B? Whether supplier or recipient? This is my question to all of you. Kindly answer. So, Prerna, my question is the condition which is mentioned in the clause D, he has furnished the GSTR 3B. Who has furnished the GSTR 3B? They are asking supplier or they are talking about the recipient. In the condition clause D, who is required to file the GSTR 3B? The answer is recipient. The answer is recipient. Sir, why recipient? No problem. Let me go back. We were talking about multiple conditions. So tell me first condition, the tax invoice or the debit note issued by the supplier, he should be in the possession of the tax invoice issued by the supplier. Please tell me the first condition in which he is being used. He means supplier or recipient? Prerna, Abdul, all are requested to tell me very clear that he should be in the possession of tax invoice or debit note issued by the supplier. What does it mean? He का मतलब क्या है? He का मतलब supplier की recipient? Kindly tell me, he का मतलब क्या? Supplier की recipient? That is my question. He means recipient. No problem. He means recipient. Obviously, invoice issued by the supplier, he should be in the possession of the tax invoice. So obviously, if they are talking about issuance by the supplier, then who should be receiving? Obviously, recipient. So he means recipient. Okay. He means recipient. Let's talk about the next clause. He has received the goods or services. Now, please again tell me that here he has received the goods. Who has received the goods? Supplier or recipient? Can you tell me the meaning of he? Here the meaning of he is supplier or recipient? Here the meaning of he is supplier or recipient? Please tell me. He means क्या? Supplier की recipient? Correct. Recipient. So it means he should be in the possession of tax invoice. He should receive the goods or services. What does he means? He means the recipient. So the last condition, he has furnished the GSTR 3B. That condition is for the recipient, not for the supplier. Last condition that he has furnished the GSTR 3B. He means the recipient. So clear one? Now it is clear. Correct. So the clause A is talking about the condition to be satisfied by the recipient. Clause B, that it should be communicated to the recipient. It is clearly saying the details of invoice has been furnished by the supplier and communicated to the recipient. So basically it should appear in my 2B. Third condition, again, it means he has received the goods. It means recipient has received the goods. Fourth condition, again, details of the ITC in respect of said supply communicated to the registered person under section 38 has not been restricted. So that condition has to be complied or has to be checked by the recipient, that the ITC which is appearing in the GSTR to be, it should not be restricted one. How to check? That is altogether different point. But yes, this condition is saying that please check. Next is subject to the provision of section 41, the tax has been paid actually to the government. Obviously, who will pay the tax to the government? Who will pay the tax to the government? Supply. So this condition is for supply. And last, as explained, that he has furnished the GSTR 3B, he means recipient. So all the rest conditions are satisfied by the recipient, are to be satisfied by the recipient, but the clause C wala condition has to be satisfied by supplier. Quickly write in the chat. I'm waiting and then I will move. Quickly write in the chat in the short, not in the long. In short, please write all the conditions. What are the conditions for taking the input tax credit as per 16 subsection 2? What all are the condition as per 16 subsection 2? Please mention in the chat. Quickly, short में बताइएगा, ऐसा नहीं लंबा बता रहे हो आप मेरे को. Just short में kindly tell me all the condition of 16.2 which we have discussed in detail. Quickly tell me all the 5 conditions. Clause A, clause AA, clause B, clause BA, clause C, and the clause D. Sorry, 6 conditions. All the 6 conditions in short. So this condition, what are the condition is talking about? So these are the 6 conditions for taking the ITC. You should thoroughly remember, but in short, currently tell me. Please tell me right now, what are the 6 conditions for taking the input tax credit? Largely applicable to the recipient. Some of the point are applicable to the supplier also. So where the tax responsibility is on the supplier, but mostly it is on the recipient, obviously. Hmm. Prerna, you have told 2 conditions, right? But I need all the 6 conditions. I need all the 6 conditions. एक, दो, तीन, चार. So Mohammed Abdul, you have told me 4 condition really appreciated, but I need the balance 2 more condition. जो 2 condition बच गई वो आप मुझे बताइए. Prerna, you have given the answer. Both are correct, but I need some more. All balance condition you have to tell me in the chat. In the short, obviously in short. I'm not saying that you should write in length. Simple वाला point is more than sufficient. ठीक है. Viraj, first conditions are correct. Second is correct. Third is correct. Fourth is correct. Now you have also left 2 conditions. What are the 2 conditions? Aniket is saying first, second, third, fourth. Oh, great. So Aniket Jain, you have given the correct answer, but 4 conditions. Total 6 conditions are there. You have to tell me 2 more conditions. All are giving the reply with 4 conditions. What happened? What about 2 conditions? Perfect. Mansa, first is correct. Second, give the crux. You have given the clause, but I need the crux. Crux is not correct. Anyway, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So fine. You have given the means linking is correct, no doubt. All the 6 conditions are correct, almost correct. But conceptually, I was asking that please give the short text for the respective condition, which somehow is missing. No problem. Download the new module. Viraj, download the new module. Yeah. Soft copy is available. Download the new module or purchase the module. I don't know how to purchase or how to take the module, that you need to connect with us board of studies. But you should purchase the new module. Perfect. This is the goods and services tax paid. Now everyone is correct. I'm happy with that. Everyone is given almost near to answer. So basically, you are not able to tell me the 2 main conditions. What are the 2 main conditions? At first point, you are not able to explain me the clause AA. What is the clause AA? Supplier has filed the GSTR1 and it should be communicated to the recipient in the GSTR2B. So the second clause AA, second condition is nothing but the 2B. And none of the participant except few part has been touched by one participant. This condition you are not able to tell. What are the conditions? This condition is simply that details of ITC which is reflected in GSTR2B. This ITC should not be restricted one. What is the restricted ITC? What is non-restricted ITC? That rule will tell. That respective section will tell. We can't say that what are the conditions, because all the conditions we have to go for. We have to check in the section 38, not here. But what is the clause BA? Clause BA simple is that it talks about the ITC should not be restricted one. Which one could be restricted? Which could not be restricted? All the permutation combination we are going to discuss in the section 38. Okay. Now the proviso. There are 2 important proviso. This proviso says where the goods against invoice are received in the lot or installment, then registered person shall be entitled to take the ITC upon last lot or installment. So if, let's say, Mr. A has supplied the goods to B, but in 3 batches, let's say for every month he is giving the goods. Now 3 months he has to complete the supply. Fine. And assume that A has given the tax invoice to B, complete tax invoice to B. It is possible. When you read the invoice accounts and record chapter, you will find that invoice can be issued on or before the supply. Before the supply, you can issue the invoice before the supply. There is no harm in that. The only point that in case goods are being received in the batch, in the lot installment, then only upon last lot or installment, you can take the ITC. So Mr. B would be entitled to take the ITC on third month. This condition everyone knows. What is the 180 days ka condition? You tell me in the chat, what is the 180 days condition? Everyone remember, I fully agree. I 100% sure that you all will give the correct answer. What is the 180 days ka requirement? What are the conditions for 180 days? What are the conditions for 180 days? Right, Aniket? Bilkul ठीक. Prerna, your answer is also correct. Aniket, your answer is also correct. My question is, what are the 180 days ka condition? What is the 180 days condition? Invoice can be issued on or before the supply, but in case of service, invoice can be issued prior or after the supply of service. Yes, yes, yes. Correct, correct. So there is a time limit of 30 days. Very nice. Very nice. So my question is, what are the 180 days ka requirement? ये 180 days क्या है? Please tell me that what is the 180 days ka restriction or condition in ITC chapter? We all have discussed in the CA Inter in detail. $180 days. What is the importance of 180 days in the hand of recipient for the purpose of ITC? What is the importance of 180 days? Fine. Let me tell. 180 days means if so, please remember the concept of CRR. What is the meaning of CRR? Cash redemption ratio, is it? No. It is claim, reverse, and reclaim. What is the concept of CRR? The concept of CRR means claim, then reverse, then reclaim. When you are claiming the ITC first, and because of any provision in the GST, any provision in the GST which talks about regarding the reversal, then you need to reverse your ITC. What is the 180 days? 180 days if you fail to make the payment to the supplier. Important word hai, fail to pay to supplier. Within how many days? Within 180 days. And 180 days would be counted from the date of invoice. Period of 180 days would be counted from date of invoice. So claim is on accrual basis. Claim is on accrual basis. Correct. When I have received the invoice and all other conditions are satisfied, I would be able to claim the ITC. No problem. Only problem is if you not made the payment within 180 days to whom? To supplier. You have not made the payment to the supplier. Then if you not made the payment to the supplier, Then you need to reverse your ITC. Fine. So first you have taken the ITC. Second, you are reversing the ITC. Then they are saying you can reclaim the ITC. No time limit is applicable on reclaiming the ITC. No time limit. In some time, we will discuss that 16 subsection 4 is creating some time limit for taking the ITC, is creating some time limit for taking the ITC, but in reclaim, no 16.4 is applicable. It means suppose after 10 years, I have made the payment to the supplier. Now, initially I have claimed, but I have reversed because I have not made the payment to the supplier within 180 days. I have done the reversal. And now I can reclaim that ITC even after 10 years when I made actual payment. I said I have made the payment after 10 years. So I would be entitled to claim the ITC because the time limit of 16.4 is not applicable on reclaiming the ITC. Let's read the proviso. Provided further, where the recipient failed to pay to the supplier. It is of goods, it is of services. So please note the reversal requirement is also there if the transaction is of services. Other than the supply on which tax is payable under reverse charge basis. So it means if the tax is payable under RCM, then 180 days ka criteria is not applicable. So why it is not applicable? Because the person who is claiming the ITC, recipient, he has to first pay the tax to the government. In case of the reverse charge, we all know the tax will goes to the government by the recipient. So if the tax has been paid by the recipient under RCM, even though he has not made the payment to the supplier, no question of reversal. No question of reversal of ITC will come. Time limit is 180 days. 180 days ka counting would be from date of invoice. Now this reversal is having some problem because its reversal is along with interest. It says that ITC availed by the recipient shall be paid along with the interest under section 50. So it means it says that you need to pay the interest also when you are reversing the input tax credit. Okay. Second, last proviso says, provided also the recipient shall be entitled to avail the credit of input tax on the payment made to the supplier of the amount toward the value along with the tax payable thereon. It says that when the recipient make the payment to the supplier of the amount toward the value along with tax, value along with tax payable, then he can claim the ITC. So I hope it is clear. Please, all are requested to confirm so I can move to the next part. Or if you have any question, kindly ask. If you have any question, kindly ask. Very nice. Yeah. You all are responding. That's great. Mansa, that is the big problem. Fully agree with you. Fully agree with you. That is the big problem. And lot of judgment, if you see the High Court judgment, mostly are favor in the taxpayer. Mostly are in the favor of taxpayer. Like DY Bethel judgment, LGW Industries, various landmark judgment are there in the GST regarding this point which you raised. Now that point is shall be added. Mansa, you have written one point shall be added. What do you saying? So you are saying, Mansa, you are saying shall be added to the recipient liability. That part has been changed. We will discuss when you reach to the rule 37. You will see that this part is changed. Earlier it was talking about adding to the output tax liability. Now they are saying shall pay and payment will include the reversal of ITC. So this point has been changed. Rest all are correct. Okay. Now section 16 subsection 3, it says that where the registered person has claimed depreciation on tax component of cost of capital goods and plant and machinery under the provision of income tax, the input tax credit shall not be allowed. So it means if you have taken the depreciation on entire value. No, 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 not an entire value. They are saying if the depreciation has been claimed on the tax component. So it means if you are purchasing, let's say, one asset in 10 lakh rupees, the GST is, let's say, 50,000, 5% tax. Total is 10 lakh 50,000. The point is, if you have claimed the depreciation on tax component, so 16 subsection 3 is not at all talking about 16 subsection 3 is not at all talking about the depreciation would not be allowed on 10 lakh. No problem. If you taken the depreciation or not taken the depreciation on taxable value, it is irrelevant from the GST perspective. What is important? It is saying that if registered person has claimed the depreciation on which value? On the tax component, then the ITC of such tax component shall not be allowed. So please note 16 subsection 3 is not at all talking about that you can't claim the depreciation. Sir, 16 subsection 3 is talking about only tax component के ऊपर depreciation. They are saying if you have claimed the depreciation on tax component as well, then ITC would not be allowed. But what about the taxable value? Suppose I have claimed the depreciation on taxable value. I have not claimed the depreciation on 50,000. Can I take the ITC? 100% yes. No problem at all. 16 subsection 3, there's a lot of confusion are probably roaming around that 16 subsection 3 is not blocking the ITC on capital goods. No, not at all. You can take the ITC on the capital goods. There is no problem. Only problem if you have capitalized the GST part. If you have capitalized the GST part, then you will be not entitled to take the ITC of this tax component because we know that no one can take the double benefit. So one benefit is the depreciation and one benefit is the income tax. Sorry, one benefit is the depreciation, one benefit is in the GST, that is ITC. Both benefit is not available. I hope it is clear. एक और confirm करो quickly. So section 16 is complete. Section 16 is complete. So 16.3 is allowing the ITC if you not capitalize the GST part. If you capitalize the taxes GST part, then obviously you are claiming the depreciation and therefore you are not entitled to take the ITC. 16 subsection 4, a registered person shall not be entitled to claim the ITC in respect of any invoice or debit note for goods or services or both after 30th November following the end of the financial year to which such supply or debit note pertain or furnishing of the relevant annual return whichever is earlier. The biggest change in the 16 subsection 4 earlier. In the 16 subsection 4 earlier, they were talking about due date for the month of September. So as a result, the last date to claim the ITC at that point of time was 20th of October. At that point of time, we were saying that last date to take the ITC is 20th of October. But now the law has amended. It says that 30th November or due date of or annual return, furnishing of annual return, when you are actually furnishing the return, whichever is earlier. It means 30th November or annual return, whichever is earlier. A registered person shall not be entitled to take ITC in respect of any invoice or debit note after the 30th November. Now they are not saying, please note, they are not saying that November month ka return which you furnish in December. No, any return which you furnish by 30th November, you can claim that ITC. Any ITC which pertain to last year, 20 to 23, and somehow you could not claim that within that 20 to 23, still you can claim in any GSTR 3B which is furnished by 30th November 2023. So I can say the slight time has been increased. So earlier it was 20 or 22 or 24. Now the time is increased to the 30th November. So we can say there is at least 1 month ka benefit hai. 16.3 needs to be followed consistently each year, not necessary. It is not for entire year. It is not for entire year that you should be consistent. Might be you can pick certain asset on which you are not thinking to take ITC. So you can claim that depreciation on the entire value. In the same financial year, if you are thinking to claim the ITC, then not to capitalize the tax part. It can be even different practice within the financial year also. See, the question is good. Why this question is good? Because the point which I like to highlight that unless and until there is a restriction, like you discussed in the composition dealer, that if you have opted composition, all the registration in that pen would be deemed to be the composition. If you are out from the composition, then it is deemed that all are from out. It means the nature would be same for the year till the time the registration is active. But here in this case, there is no such proviso, no such restriction. And as a result, I can say I can opt asset-wise different practice also in my organization. No harm in that. Now the availment of input tax credit. Section 41. Every registered person subject to such condition and restriction be entitled to avail the ITC as self-assessed in his return, such amount shall be credited to the electronic credit ledger. So first they are saying every registered person subject to such condition restriction entitled to avail the ITC as self-assessed. So first ITC is self-assessed ITC. Whenever we are claiming the ITC, it will be treated as self-assessed. Now 41 subsection 2 says the credit of the input tax by a registered person under subsection 1 in respect of such supplies of the goods or services or both, tax payable has not been actually paid by the supplier to the government, then it shall be reversed along with applicable interest by the said person in such supply as goods. So section 41 subsection 2 is linked with whom? Section 41 subsection 2 is linked with the 16 subsection 2 clause C. This particular point condition is linked to the 16 subsection 2 clause C. What are the 16 to C? You remember, the tax has been paid by the supplier to the government, subject to the provision of section 41, which we are reading. The tax charge in respect of such supply has been actually paid to the government either in cash or utilizing through ITC. This section 41 we are reading. 41 subsection 2 is saying that credit availed by the registered person under subsection 1 in respect of such outward supplies, such supplies of goods or services, the tax payable has not been actually paid to the government. Then ITC has to be reversed along with applicable interest. Now the proviso says that when such supplier make the payment to the government, then registered person may re-avail that ITC. So next CRR. C matlab claim, R matlab reverse, and next R is reclaim. So in this case, what you are doing, you are claiming the ITC. When you receive the goods or services, you are invoice and all other conditions, you are claiming the ITC. You are not checking whether supplier has paid the tax to the government. The doubt was whether 16(2)(c) has to be complied on every tax period. Whether 16 subsection 2 clause C has to be complied, has to be checked on every tax period. There is two major problems. The first major problem is GSTN has not yet provided the mechanism by which I can check. Plus, the credit of input tax availed by the registered person under subsection 1 in respect of such supply has not been. So proviso says that where the said supply make the payment to the supplier, the registered person may be avail the ITC. So as of now, the mechanism is not available, but once the mechanism would be available, then I can say that yes, whenever the supplier pay the tax to the government, then I can avail the ITC. So now please give me the, please help me to complete this chart. Claim, reverse, reclaim. First condition we have discussed in the 16 subsection 2 ka proviso. We have discussed that we can claim the ITC on satisfaction of all the condition of, once I will satisfy all the condition of 16(2), I would be entitled to take ITC. Now you tell me when I should reverse my ITC. When I should my reverse my ITC? So I like to ask that when I should reverse my ITC, first condition we have discussed. First condition we have discussed in the 16.2 ka proviso, wherein we have discussed this concept claim, reverse, and reclaim. I'm asking the same question to all of you. There is no new question. So I'm requesting everyone to give the reply, please. Firaz, Prerna, Anike Jain, Mohammed Abdul, Mansa, everyone are requested to give the reply. I'm talking about we have discussed this provision at two places. Recently, we are discussing at section 41. I'm not talking about that. The first one which we have discussed and completed in the 16.2 ka proviso. No, Prerna, I'm not asking 16.2C. The first point was claim, reverse, reclaim was discussed at some other place. I need when I need to reverse my ITC as per that proviso. When I need to reverse my ITC. Suppose I'm a recipient. When I need to reverse my ITC. If correct. If 180 days fail to pay to the supplier. Absolutely correct. Now, मजे की बात है ना? 180 days fail to pay to the supplier. When I can reclaim? When I reclaim, whenever I make the payment to the supplier. Now, please tell me in this condition, which payment is being referred? Is it taxable value, total invoice value? They are asking certain payment in this particular point. My question to all of you that whether which payment they are talking about, taxes or GST, taxes or GST or taxable value, tax invoice value. ना मेरा कंडीशन था 16.2 का प्रोवाइजो ही, not 16.3. 16.2 का प्रोवाइजो it means if payment is not made within 180 days, fail to pay to the supplier within 180 days, then ITC need to be reversed. So that point I was asking. When ITC need to be reversed, the answer was 180 days. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. So you all are correct that here you are talking about invoice value. Now, please tell me that recently we have discussed in the section 41, read with section 16.2C and one more provision which we will discuss later on. But I can take the ITC when I satisfy the condition. Please tell me when I have to reverse my ITC. Please tell me when I have to reverse my input tax credit. मुझे अपना ITC कब रिवर्स करना है? First point I fully agree that it will talking about the total invoice value. Now my next question is, we have discussed the concept of CRR at one more place. currently, which is section 41. So I'm talking about according to the section 41. According to section 41, which ITC need to be reversed and when I can claim that ITC? This is my simple two question to all of you. The answer is if supplier failed to make the payment, supplier failed to pay to government. This time, supplier failed to pay to the government, then recipient has to reverse the ITC. When it can be reclaimed? When supplier actually pay the taxes to the government. Please note one thing. As of now, not able to understand. As of now, not able to understand that from the GST portal that whether supplier has paid the taxes or not, or much more important, whether supplier has paid the taxes of my invoice to the government. No such mechanism available. In the second situation, can you please tell me which payment they are talking about? Taxes, taxable value, or tax invoice? Which payment they are talking about in this condition? सेक्शन 41 से कौन से पेमेंट की वो बात करें? कौन सा पेमेंट अगर नहीं पे किया तो रिसिपिएंट हैज टू रिवर्स द आईटीसी and then he can subsequently take the ITC when supplier pay the tax to the government. My question is the 16 subsection 2 clause C. Read with section 41. The ITC can be reclaimed when? कराऊंगा जस्ती पक्का कराऊंगा सो पक्का करूंगा लेकिन लास्ट क्लास में कराऊंगा अभी पहले प्रोविजन का डिस्कशन करेंगे 100% कराऊंगा इसमें तो बहुत क्लासेज हैं आईटीसी की तो बहुत क्लासेज है तो लास्ट एक दो क्लास में तो हम खाली सम ही करेंगे so when he can reclaim recipient can reclaim when the supplier pay the taxes to the government. Perfect. And which payment we are talking about? Only tax component, not the entire value. ठीक है अभी हम 15 मिनट का ब्रेक लेते हैं 15 मिनट का ब्रेक लेते हैं वी विल रिज्यूम एट 7:40 वी विल रिज्यूम शार्प एट 7:40 ठीक है एंड देन विल डिस्कस द फर्दर पार्ट अशोक जी एक बार ब्रेक स्टार्ट What is the Rule 36? Rule 36 is basically the document requirement and condition for claiming the ITC. So we will spend sizable time on the practical study. Practical cases we will take in this class, and then because we have the lot of classes on this ITC chapter. Rule 36 is basically sub-rule 1. It says that ITC shall be availed by the registered person, including ISD, on the basis of any of the following document. What could be the document? The document could be invoice issued by the supplier, or invoice issued by the supplier of the goods or services, or both, in accordance with the provision of section 31. So in the invoice accounts and records chapter, you all might remember that invoice can be issued, time limit, content of the tax invoice, content, etc. So you all can refer that invoice accounts and records chapter, which probably we are also going to read. Then invoice issued in accordance with 31 subsection 3 clause F. What is that? Self invoice. In case of the reverse charge, in case of the RCM, where the supplier is unregistered person, whether it is covered in the 9 subsection 3 or whether it is covered in the 9 subsection 4, doesn't matter. In case of reverse charge, 9.3 and 9.4, if the supplier is unregistered, then according to 31 subsection 3 clause F, recipient has to make the self invoice. The recipient has to make the self invoice. And that would be the document to avail the ITC subject to the payment of taxes. It means in case of the RCM, there is 2 requirements. First, the taxes has to be paid, and additionally, if supplier is unregistered, ensure that you have prepared the self-invoice. In most of the cases, you might also have observed in your articleship that certain organizations are paying the tax under RCM, but they are not having the self-invoicing. So the officer may question regarding the admissibility of ITC because you have not followed the Rule 36 sub Rule 1 clause B. A debit note issued by the supplier in accordance with the provision of section 34. Debit note issued by the supplier in accordance with the provision of section 34. Bill of entry or any other similar document prescribed under Custom Act or the rules made thereunder for the assessment of integrated tax on import. What happened? At the time of import of the goods, we are paying the IGST. We are paying the IGST on import of the goods, and there would be some bill of entry. We are availing that ITC, but after that there is a reassessment. There is a reassessment of that particular bill of entry. Suppose during the reassessment, my value is increased, so I have to pay additionally. My value has been increased, so I have to pay additionally the IGST on import of the goods. So I am paying additionally IGST. So the question is how to take ITC, because the bill of entry is already there. But now my value has been increased because of the assessment. And as a result, my IGST liability has been increased, which I have paid on the basis of some custom document. So the Rule 36 sub Rule 1 clause clause D is saying that any other similar document prescribed under Custom Act. So it could be the TR6 challan. It could be any other document. The ISD invoice or ISD credit note or any document issued by the input service distributor in accordance with the provision of 54(1). Then Rule 36 sub Rule 2. Quickly tell me what are the document which we have discussed in the Rule 36(1). Quickly tell me what are the list of the document which we have discussed in the Rule 36(1). कौन कौन से डॉक्यूमेंट हमने 36(1) में बात कर ली हमने? प्लीज टेल मी maximum document which you can tell in short. List of the document which is required to avail the input tax credit. Man says, ask questions are self-invoice generated by the recipient to be shown at government portal for claiming the ITC. No, it is not required to be shown at government portal. So only in the GSTR1, there is a table 13. In the table, you need to report the document numbering, but it will never come in the GSTR2B. Still, you can claim the ITC. Why? Because in the 16(2)AA, the condition which we have discussed is not applicable on RCM transaction. Not applicable on RCM transaction. Because in that case, supplier will not file the GSTR1, and the 16(2)AA ka condition is linked to if supplier file R1 and then it has been communicated to the recipient in the form GSTR2B. But in case of the reverse charge, supplier will never file R1 if it is unregistered. Then it can never be appeared in GSTR2B if the supplier is unregistered. So they are saying pay the taxes and also make the self-invoice and then take the ITC. Is that clear? Mansa, your question is clear? And Prerna has given the reply. First correct, second, third, fourth. Perfect. Bit of so fine. So Niket has also given the answer. ठीक है, ठीक है निकेत, मोटा मोटी बता दिया आपने. ऑन एन एवरेज यू हैव टोल्ड सेम. प्रेरणा यू हैव टोल्ड ठीक, ऑलमोस्ट ऑल हैव कवर्ड. एनी अदर आंसर? Jasdeep, are you there? Jasdeep, are you there? So fine. So we have discussed in the rule 36 sub rule 1 that multiple document in which you have given almost all the answer. Invoice, okay, self invoice, debit note, bill of entry, IST document. Correct. And 36(2) is saying very important. ITC shall be availed by the registered person only if all the applicable parameter as specified in the provision of chapter 6 are contained in the said document. It means they are saying every content which has been given in the rule 46 has to be there on the tax invoice. It could be signature, it could be date, it could be place of supply, it could be state. So they earlier they were saying all the particular which is required has to be there to avail the ITC. Then provided that if the said document does not contain all the specified particular but contain the details of the amount of tax charge. If said document does not contain all the specified particular. So fine, this proviso has given the relief that if all particulars are not there, then that is also okay, you can avail the ITC. But they have specified minimum content that this has to be there on the tax invoice to avail the ITC. details of amount of tax charged. Second, description of the goods. Third is total value. Fourth is GSTN of the supplier and recipient. And fifth is place of the supply. So what are the five conditions? First is amount of the tax charged. Then second is description. Third is total value. Fourth is GST number. And fifth is POS. These are the five conditions which has to be there in order to avail the ITC. If these are not there, then you can't avail the ITC. Earlier, there was a requirement that all particular has to be there. It means even if date is not there, ideally you are not allowed to take ITC. But after that, they have added the proviso, and proviso says if all particulars are not there, no problem, but ensure to have the following detail in order to take the input tax credit. Let's repeat again: tax, description, value, GST number, and POS. Subsection 3, we have read that you can't claim the depreciation if tax has been capital. You can't claim the ITC if the tax has been capitalized. Correct. If the depreciation has been taken in the tax component. Now, Rule 36 sub Rule 3 says that no ITC on account of the fraud or willful misstatement. See, we all know that if someone has done the wrong thing, fraud, willful misstatement, then ITC cannot be availed by the registered person. If any taxes has been paid in pursuance of any order where any demand has been confirmed on account of the fraud, willful misstatement, or suppression of the fact, then ITC not available. So next point is the details of invoice or debit note have been furnished by the supplier in the statement of outward supply, that is GSTR1, or using the IF. Now, Rule 16, subsection 2, clause AA to be read with Rule 36 sub Rule 4. Let me repeat again. 16 subsection 2 clause AA has to be read with Rule 36 sub Rule 4 in order to understand the requirement. And now, Mansa, you will be able to understand that why I was not talking about that RCM, the applicability of this clause on RCM also. So it says that details of invoice or debit note have been furnished by the supplier in the R1 or IFF. What is the IFF? You can say in case of quarterly taxpayer who is required to file the GST R1 and 3B on quarterly basis. So to them, this facility has been given. It is optional facility, but this facility has been given so that they can add the B2B transaction at least. And therefore, their buyer can take the ITC. To facilitate the small taxpayer, the concept of IFF has been introduced. It says that details of ITC, second, details of ITC in respect of such invoices, this invoices, have been communicated to the recipient in the form GSTR2B. Now, I hope it is clear that if GSTR1 is applicable, then that transaction has to come in 2B, like import of the goods. Question come whether this condition of Rule 36(4) read with 16(2)(a) is applicable on import of the goods. Answer is no, not applicable. Why it is applicable? No, not applicable. Because the supplier is located out of India. Will he file the GSTR1? Answer is no. Then if he not file the GSTR1, then the condition given in the 16(2)(a) and read with 36(4), will it be satisfied that details of invoice or debit note have been furnished by the supplier in the GSTR1? Answer is no. It cannot be furnished. I am not saying that whether it is coming or not coming in 2B, That is altogether different. The only point which I like to highlight that for compliance of 16 to AA and Rule 36(4), it is mandatory required that supplier has to file the GSTR1. Like I have discussed about import of the goods, it can be import of service, it can be ISD, it can be RCM from unregistered. All these situations, the corresponding supplier will never file the R1, and therefore the condition of these provision is not being complied and not being possible. So therefore not being applicable. Therefore, we cannot say that if ITC is not coming into B, then can't take the ITC in this situation. Clear, Anna? Is it clear to all? All this prerequisite for composite and mixed supply also. Which one? All this prerequisite. Not able to understand your question. Mansa, not able to understand your question. So what happened to the other participant, Muhammad, Jasdeep? Viraj, are you there? So let's move further. Rule 37. Reversal of ITC in case of the non-payment of consideration. So we have discussed the proviso. We have discussed the proviso to section 16.2. We have discussed the proviso to section 16.2. Correct. Second proviso, 180 days wala concept. Read with the rule 37, and this rule 37 has been amended. What it says, that a registered person who has availed the ITC on inward supply. It says that registered person who has availed the ITC on any inward supply of the goods or services or both, other than the supply on which tax is payable under RCM. So Rule 37(1) has itself has excluded that on 180 days RCM, 180 days wala condition is not applicable on RCM. Okay? But fail to pay to the supplier the amount toward the value of such supply, whether wholly or partly, along with the tax payable thereon. The supplies on which, but the fail to pay to the supplier the amount toward the value along with the taxes. It means it says that value plus GST, both, within the time specified in the second provision. What is the time? 180 days. Shall pay or reverse. Mansa, it is clear. I was talking about you have used the word added to the output tax liability. You were correct. I'm not saying you're not correct, but this has been recent amendment. So you should remember, you should aware about this provision. You all should aware about this provision, because earlier it was saying it has to be added to the output tax liability. Sir, why it has to be added to the output tax liability? What is the requirement to add the output tax liability? So they have made the amendment pay or reverse an amount equal to the ITC availed in respect of the supply proportionate to the amount not paid. So if they have not made partial payment, let's say I have made the payment 60%. To the extent of 40%, I need to reverse my ITC. Along with the interest, which interest? Section 50, while furnishing the GSTR 3B. The tax period immediately following the period of 180 days from the date of issue of invoice. So the interest would be, let's read once again. the interest payable there on section 50 while furnishing the return in 3B. In which 3B? In 3B, for the tax period immediately following the period of 180 days from the date of issue of invoice. So invoice इश्यू करने के बाद जो इनवॉइस की डेट से 180 डेज के बाद में whatever the whatever the tax period comes, that has to be reversed or pay in this particular GSTR 3B and along with interest. Proviso says that value of the supplies made without consideration as specified in the schedule 1. Please tell me any one transaction of schedule 1. So you cannot tell that transaction which you have discussed is stock transfer, distinct person. Please, you are not able to, you should not add this as a transaction. I'm asking to all of you, please give me one example, one transaction of the schedule 1. And what is the importance of schedule 1? Why I have to refer the schedule 1? What is the importance of the schedule 1, sir? Abdul, if you are there, then please, yeah, kindly participate. So it would be better. Applicable to, obviously, applicable to all. See, for Mansa, you are asking composite supply or mixed supply. 36(2) wala condition will be applicable to all such supply. So I'm not saying that on every goods it is applicable. I'm not saying on every goods it is applicable. Let's go back to the 36(2). It says that it should have the content of the tax invoice. So what is your question? You might say that, sir, I have purchased one thing, and along with that, they have given one more thing, and for which I am paying the nominal amount. Let's say anything else. So the answer would be yes, it is applicable to all supply, whether it is mixed, whether it is composite, whether it is individuals. It is applicable to all. Right. Abdul is right. Wow. Sneha ji. Permanent. Bilkul. What is the importance? Prerna. Right. Schedule 1 is without consideration. Supply between distinct person. Right. Mohammed, absolutely correct. Import of service. Aniket, import of service from related person. Absolutely correct. So fine, all have given the correct answer. My point is that if the value specified in the schedule 1 shall be deemed to have been paid for the purpose of second proviso to subsection 2 of section 60. Now let's try to understand why there's a requirement to insert this proviso. We all know that in case of the schedule 1, the transaction itself, schedule 1 itself says that without consideration. It means on those transactions there would be no consideration, but still it is supply, and as a result, the tax would be paid. Still it is a supply and the tax would be paid. Correct. So it is a supply and tax need to be paid. Then the question comes whether 180 days would be applicable, because after 180 days, if we not make the payment to the supplier, we need to reverse the ITC. The question comes whether we need to reverse the ITC. So the proviso has clarified that it will be deeming. The proviso has saying it will be deemed to have been paid. You remember last, when I start the class, I have explained the concept of deeming provision. Can you please tell me where we have discussed the concept of deeming provision in today class. आज की क्लास में हमने डीमिंग प्रोविजन का कहां पे डिस्कशन किया था? काइंडली टेल मी. Waiting for your answer, and I hope that all will give the reply. Very correct. Mohammad Abdul, Sneha Ji, Prerna Kochar, and Aniket. All are correct. Very nice to see the reply. Very nice to see the reply. Now the point is, we have discussed the deeming provision. Here they are also again saying that it will be deemed that payment has been made. It means if it will be deemed that payment has been made, then I can say that no question of ITC reversal is required. No question of ITC reversal is required, right? Where the said registered person subsequently, sorry, one second. Now this one new proviso has been added. What was the new proviso? It says that because of section 15, subsection 2 and clause B, because of section 15, subsection 2, clause B, the value has been increased. See, value of the supply. Let me go to some part of the value of the supply chapter. See, section 15 has basically three components for the purpose of the value of the supply chapter. Obviously, there are 5 subsections, but here I like to explain in short the 3 subsection. The valuation chapter, which talks about the transaction value, provided supplier and recipient should not be the related person and the price should be the sole consideration. Then transaction value will be considered as a taxable value. That is 15 subsection 1. What is the 15 subsection 2? It says that the value which you determined according to the transaction value, please add following 5 things. What are the 5 things? One is taxes, one is what is the if expenditure has been incurred by the recipient, which is the responsibility of the supplier. At that point, I like to discuss with all of you. Incidental expenditure like commission, packing charges, etc., which has been added in the value. So the GST need to be charged on the entire value, including commission, packing charges, etc. Then there's a concept of uh, late fees or interest on delayed payment of any consideration. And then there is a subsidy given by the other than government, not government. So these 5 things has to be added in the value. Then the total value would be arrived on which we need to charge the GST. Now, the point which is interlinked, that is this 15 subsection 2 clause B. What is the point? So, and by 15 subsection 3 is basically talking about the discount. 15 subsection 2 clause B says, if the payment has been made by the recipient on behalf of supplier, should be added in the value. Now let's take an example. A had supplied the goods to B on CIF basis, means A is responsible to deliver the goods at the factory gate or at the factory of the Mr. B. So all the responsibility of the packing, factory, transportation charges, etc., it is the responsibility of the Mr. A. Let's say the total value is rupees 1 lakh. Okay. Now what B has did, B has made the payment to the transporter rupees 10,000. क्या किया B ने? B has made the payment of 10,000 to the transporter of A. Whether it is the responsibility of B? The answer is no. It is the responsibility of A, but it has been incurred by the recipient. And as a result, it has been deducted from the value. A has raised the invoice of 90,000. When A raised the invoice of 90,000 to B, then section 15 subsection 2B will come to Mr. A that, sir, please add 10,000 by virtue of clause B. So you need to raise the invoice of rupees 1 lakh. Now A is raising the tax invoice of rupees 1 lakh. In this particular value, the 10,000 is pertain the expenditure incurred by B to A. Will that 10,000 come to the supplier? क्या ये 10,000 रुपए कभी supplier को pay करेगा? Answer is no, because B has already paid to someone else on behalf of A. B has already paid to someone else on behalf of A. So this 10,000 will never be paid to the Mr. A, and therefore they have added in the deeming provision that it will be deemed that such 10,000, it will be deemed that such 10,000 has been paid and there is no requirement of reversal of ITC. क्लियर हुआ ये वाली बात? Is it clear to all? एक बार confirm करना. Meanwhile, please confirm whether this concept is clear or not. Which point I was like to explain, provided further that value of the supplies on account of any amount added in the value because of the 15 to B shall be deemed to have been paid for the purpose of 16(2) का second proviso, that is 180 days. Is it clear to all? Uh, Let me move further. Okay, let me explain once again. Mansa Singh, please explain once again. No problem. I'll explain once again. So the point which I like to highlight, see, there's a requirement to understand 15 subsection 2 clause B. What is that? The 15 subsection 2 clause B, let me explain with the help of example. A is appointed as a consultant to B. So, or rather you should say B is the recipient and A is a supplier. So A is appointed as consultant to Mr. B company. Okay. Now B is saying, I will pay you 30,000 rupees per month plus GST. Perfect. So as per the agreement, the invoice should be 30,000. Now what happened? So A has sent one staff on B's office on regular basis. Fine. A is making the payment to this staff 12,000. Clear? So if I ask Then if I ask that salary of Mr. Raj is the responsibility of A or B, if I ask that salary of Mr. Raj, let's say 12,000, it is the responsibility of A or it is the responsibility of B? The answer would come, it is the responsibility of A only. It is the responsibility of A. Correct. Now, next month, what happened? Mr. B is saying to A that, listen, I will pay the salary of B, of Mr. Raj. I will pay the salary of Mr. Raj, and therefore, I would not require to pay the GST to that extent. So kindly raise the invoice by reducing 12,000, 30,000 minus 12,000. So B is saying, kindly raise the invoice for 12,000 minus 12,000. So the invoice ka value would be 18,000 plus GST. Why he will say? Because let's say he is not able to take any ITC because outward supply is exempted. Let's say he is not registered person, any reason. So be like to take or be like to do one adjustment to save the GST, that he is making directly one payment on behalf of Mr. A, and Mr. A is reducing that value from invoice. यहां तक क्लियर है? एक बार मान सा कंफर्म करना. इज दैट क्लियर? यहां तक क्लियर है? Now next point, that when he will raise the invoice, is it correct or not correct? The answer is given in the 15 subsection 2 clause B. It says that if any expenditure which is the responsibility, if any expenditure which is the responsibility of supplier, but it has been incurred by the recipient. It has been incurred by the recipient and that amount has been excluded from the value. So you know that the responsibility of salary is of A but has been incurred by B, and to that extent the value has been reduced from the invoice. In such case, this expenditure would be added in the value. So according to 15 subsection 2 clause B, the value of the 12,000 has to be added. So now the question is, he will raise the invoice of 30,000, but whether Mr. B will make the payment of 12,000 again to A, answer is no, because B has already incurred the payment on behalf of A. So they are saying this will never be again paid. So it is saying it will be deemed to be paid, so that the reversal of the ITC ka question would not arise on Mr. B. Is it clear? I'm coming 1 minute. Only 1 minute. I like to take 1 minute break. Coming in 1 minute. So now it is clear now. Fine, 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 fine. ठीक है. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, let's move further. When the registered person subsequently make the payment toward the value along with the tax, then he shall be entitled to re-avail the input tax credit referred to in sub-rule 1. Where the said registered person subsequently make the payment towards the value along with the tax to the supplier, therefore entitled to re-avail the ITC referred to in sub-rule 1. So that point is clear to all, that if the payment is made, whenever the payment is made to the supplier, then this ITC can be reclaimed. There is no time limit of 16.4. The time limit specified in 16.4 shall not be applied to reclaim to a claim of reavailing any credit in accordance with the provision of this act or the rules made that has been reversed earlier. It simply says if any ITC which has been reversed earlier, then the time limit of 16.4 would not be applicable on reclaiming that part. I hope it is clear. Please quickly tell me, what is the time limit to take the ITC in the 16.4? What is the time limit to take the ITC of 16.4? Quickly tell me, what is the time limit to avail the input tax credit What is the time limit of 16.4? Right. 30th November after the end of the financial year or annual return, whichever is earlier. So tell me, will we see the filing date of annual return or will we see the due date of annual return? 30th November is fixed. My question is, will you see the due date or will you see the actual filing date? This is my question. Will you see the due date or will you see the actual filing date of GSTR 9? Very, very important. The answer is filing date. Let's read the language with me. A registered person shall not be entitled to take the ITC before, supply the goods or services of both after 30th November, following the end of the financial year, or furnishing of relevant annual return. They are saying when you have furnished the return, that date will be taken. It is not written the due date of the GSTR 9. No, they are not saying the due date of the annual return. They are saying furnishing of relevant annual return. What is means? Furnishing means actual return with when we have filed the same. ठीक है? Is it clear? Is it clear? Rule 37A. What is the Rule 37A? Let's discuss. Rule 37A, you have discussed one point, that Section 16 subsection 2 clause C plus Section 41. Now we need to understand the Rule 37. You know the concept. The concept is already being discussed 16 to C and the Section 41. The Rule 37A, capital A, is saying that reversal has to be made by this date if tax is not paid by this date. In the Rule 37A, so we have discussed 16 to C. 16 to C is saying that GST has been paid by the supplier to the government. 41 says that if not paid, then you need to reverse the ITC. It says it has to be paid to by the supplier to the government. It says if not paid, then you need to reverse the ITC and you can reclaim whenever it is being paid. Rule 37A says this particular requirement of 16 to C. Let me ask the question. First, let me ask this question. The requirement of 16 to C has to be checked invoice wise, month wise, or year wise. The condition that supplier has paid the taxes to the government has to be checked before filing the GSTR 3B, has to be checked before filing the every GSTR 3B, or has to be checked on yearly basis, or has to be checked invoice wise. That is my question. The condition of 16 to C, whether it has to be checked on month wise, whether it has to be checked on 3B filing due date, before filing the GSTR 3B, or it is an invoice wise matching, or it is yearly checked. सभी को क्लास समझ में आ रही है ना? ऐसा तो कुछ नहीं है ना कि क्लास या टॉपिक जो डिस्कशन हो रहा है वो समझ में नहीं आ रहा. Everyone are clear na? Whatever we are discussing, whatever we are doing the discussion, the pattern in which we are doing the discussion. The question which I have asked, that will it be invoice wise, will it be month wise, year wise, before filing 3B, etc. What is the answer? Now it is year wise. The answer is it is year wise. Prima facie, I can say it appear that it should be invoice wise. It should be invoice wise. It appear that it should be invoice wise before taking the ITC. See, what is the 16.2? See, you need to satisfy all the condition. Then only you can take the ITC, right? But I can say now after Rule 37A, the requirement of 16.2C is now shifted on yearly basis, not on monthly basis. What is that? You can take the ITC, no problem. But the taxes has been paid to the government. Taxes has been paid to the government by September. If not, then ITC need to be reversed by November without interest. After November, with interest. Prima facie, I fully agree with all that this condition has to be checked on invoice wise. I was also having the same impression, but that impression has been changed after Rule 37A was inserted. This condition is now not to be checked on invoice wise. This condition is now not to be checked before filing 3B. It has become the yearly condition after the end of the financial year. For the financial year 22-23, let's say, the requirement to check 16(2)(c), 37A, section 41 is become yearly, and I have to check that whether taxes has been paid by the supplier till 30th September. If yes, no problem. If no, then I need to reverse the ITC. And for reversal of ITC, they have given some time. They have given the relaxation by 30th November. Let's read. Where input tax credit has been availed by the registered person in the GSTR 3B for a tax period in respect of such invoice or debit note, the details of which has been furnished by the supplier in the statement of outward supply in the GSTR 1 or using IFF. Okay? But the return in the GSTR 3B for the tax period corresponding to said outward supply has not been furnished by the September till 30th September. Following the end of the financial year in which the ITC has been availed, the said amount shall be reversed on or before 30th November, following the end of the financial year. Proviso says that said amount of ITC is not reversed by the registered person by 30th November, then shall be payable during such ITC has been November following the end of the financial during which such ITC has been availed, such amount shall be payable along with interest under section 50. Provided further that where the said supplier subsequently furnished 3B, the registered person may re-avail the amount of such credit in 3B for a tax period thereafter. No time limit is applicable on this particular point. So now the analysis is being started. So we have discussed registration under GST, that every registered person is only entitled to take the ITC, correct? So there is no requirement. If something is new, then I will discuss. Goods or services should be used for the business purpose. The intention to use the goods or services would also suffice for availing the ITC. However, if finally the input goods or services are not utilized for intended purpose, ITC will be disallowed. Yes, we will discuss section 17.5 block credit. Might be you all remember that what is the provision of the block credit, but yes, we will discuss in subsequent classes. Tax paid on goods or services which are used or intended to be used for non-business cannot be availed as credit, correct? So there is a section 17.1 and 17 subsection 2. It says that ITC to the extent of taxable supplies can be availed. 17.1 says ITC to the extent of business purpose can be availed. So if there is an ITC on non-business purpose, or if there is any ITC for exempt supply, I need to reverse my ITC. Correct. So the tax paid on the goods or services which are used or intended to be used for the non-business cannot be availed. ITC will be credited to the electronic credit ledger. What is that? Molds dies provided by the OEM, original equipment manufacturer, to the component manufacturer on free of cost basis, when not considered as being in the course or furtherance of the business. Very interesting point. Molds dies owned by the original manufacturer, which are provided on free of cost to the job worker. does not constitute the supply at all, as there is no consideration involved. Further, the molds and dies are provided in the course or furtherance of his business. There is no requirement of reversal of IT on such molds and dies by the original manufacturer. However, where the contract between the OEM and component manufacturer is for the supply the component made by using molds dies belonging to the component manufacturer. Now, what is the agreement says? Agreement says this mold dies should belongs to the manufacturer. It is not my supply responsibility. It is become the responsibility of recipient. Then, it in that case, if the same have been supplied by the OEM, now it is not the responsibility of OEM. It become the responsibility. It is not the responsibility, become the responsibility of the recipient. Now, but if still OEM manufacturer is providing the molds and dies, then in that case, I can say the section 15 subsection 2 clause B would apply. Please tell me why. You all are requested to tell why. I've given so much clear reference that 15 subsection 2 clause B would apply in this line. Why? Kindly explain. Aniket, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. My question is, why 15 subsection 2 clause B would apply in this scenario? The answer is that because now this is see, who is the supplier? Component manufacturer. Who is the recipient? OEM. Okay. Now, OEM is providing, recipient of that service is providing or incurring certain expenditure, which is the responsibility of the component manufacturer now as per the agreement. So then the OEM will be required to reverse the credit on mold dies, as the same will not be provided by the OEM in the course or furtherance of business. Correct? Or in other word, I can say it will be added in the value of the recipient if the contract price has been reduced. So as per this case, it is not clear whether contract price has been reduced or not. Therefore, we can say the ITC need to be reversed because it is provided free of cost and it will not come back. So ITC to the extent of that will not be available. Condition for taking the ITC, we all have discussed this all condition. Possession of the tax invoice or relevant document. That okay, tell me one thing. We have discussed in the rule 36 that the tax invoice should have some component, some parameter, at least 5 content has to be there. Can you please tell me all the 5 content which has to be there on the tax invoice to avail the ITC? As per 36.2, we have discussed earlier, it was saying all the content has to be there. But finally, they have added the proviso and they are limited to the 5 type of information. Please tell me which types of detail is required to be added, or which details which required to be required to be there so that we can take the ITC. That is my question. Did not get merchandise. See, molds and dyes. So I am the company. You need to manufacture. You are my job worker, Aniket. Okay. You need to carry out certain job work. I will provide certain material to you, which the material will be consumed. Suppose, as per the contract, if it is my responsibility to provide the free of cost, matter closed. As it is my part, I have provided, then matter closed. Second part we have discussed, if it is your responsibility, then I should not provide free of cost, right? But still, if I am providing free of cost to you, and that will be finished in the process, then I can say I have to reverse my ITC because it is not used for the business purpose. Make sense or not? Then I will again repeat in some other pattern. हम्म, ठीक है. Mr. Muhammad Abdul Rahim has given the answer. Jackson voice. ठीक है. Value. Okay. Description and customer. Customer name का तो कंडीशन ही था. बाकी तो राइट आपका. अब्दुल जी. Mr. Abdul Rahim. Sneha ji. Tax. Amount charge. Description. Correct. टोटल वैल्यू उसके बाद में थोड़ा डिस्क्रिप्शन. ठीक है. फोर्थ हो गया. ठीक है. फिफ्थ हो गया. परफेक्ट. स्नेहा एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. परफेक्ट. मानसा एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. Prerna, absolutely correct. And only one suggestion that instead of the details, you should write the description. Details of the goods, I mean to say, description is the appropriate word. But your intention is correct. I do agree that the details means you want to say description. So please use the word description. Rest all are okay. Aniket got it. But Aniket, I have not got it. You need to give the answer for my question. If you got it, then I should also got it. कहाँ है मेरा आंसर? मेरे क्वेश्चन का आंसर कहाँ है? So thank you. Amount of the tax charge, description, total value, then GST number. And please note that it is talking about both GST number, not only the recipient, both the recipient and supplier. And POS only in case if it is interstate. 36.3, no ITC tax is paid in pursuance of any order where any demand has been confirmed on account of the fraud, etc. Then cannot be availed the input tax credit. So that we have discussed. What is the IFF? Can anybody tell me what is the IFF? What is IFF? What is IFF? What is IFF? Hmm. What is IFF? What is IFF? IFF is the invoice furnishing facility, which is applicable, which is applicable for which is applicable for QRMP taxpayer, quarterly return, monthly payment. Correct, correct. IFF we can add only B2B supply, and the main reason to brought into the IFF so that it will reflect in the recipient GSTR to be. Please tell me one, please answer my one question. So now the question answer session is being started. So now, last 10 minutes, I will take up the question answer session with all of you. So I'm sharing the screen. I'm stopping the screen. So kindly answer the certain question. Please tell me in which situation the GS, even though ITC not appearing in my GSTR2B, I would be entitled to claim the ITC. In which scenario, even though the amount invoice is not appearing in my GSTR2B, still I would be entitled to take the input tax credit. Fine. No, not at all. Mansa, not at all. In which scenario restriction of the GSTR2B will not be applicable? In which scenario? Whatever the answer I have received, Muhammad Abdul is the correct. Rest all the answer, I am not happy. Not correct at all. I cannot say the name, but not happy with the answer. Only Muhammad Abdul Rahim has given the right answer, but only one situation. Muhammad, I'm expecting two situation at least from each one of you. तो मोहम्मद आपको एक ऐड करना पड़ेगा. यू हैव टू ऐड वन मोर सिचुएशंस. Yes. Import of goods and reverse charge. Import of the goods and reverse charge. Absolutely. My question was, Mansa, my question, when the restriction of GSTR2B would not apply, you can claim the ITC even though same is not appearing in the GSTR2B. Now, how many days I need to reverse my ITC? Within how many days I need to reverse my ITC if I have not made the payment to the supplier? If I have not made the payment to the supplier, then within how many days I need to reverse the ITC? 180 days from invoice date. आप बहुत लेट रिप्लाई कर रहे हैं यार, ऐसा क्यों? You all are giving very late reply. Kindly do the fast. The answer is 180 days. The ITC need to be reversed. When this ITC can be reclaimed? When this ITC can be reclaimed? When this ITC can be reclaimed? The answer is on payment of the tax, on payment made by the recipient to the supplier, and when it is paid to the supplier along with taxes. Right, right, right. Correct, correct. Please tell me the similar situation, claim, reverse, and reclaim, is applicable at one more place. Claim, reverse, and reclaim is applicable at one more place. Please explain. Please explain that at one more place it is applicable. This concept of claim, reverse, and reclaim. Where? Aniket, Mohammed, Abdul Rahim, Prerna, Mansa, Sneha. Right. Mansa, can you explain in brief? Absolutely appreciated. No doubt you are correct in giving the reference of the section, but I need the gist of that particular in one or two or one line or something like five, 4 word, 4, 5 word. Uh, which you like to explain. Mm, I hope you all have understood my question. Na? Correct. Na? Should I repeat? The my question is that nahi, I will not expect. I'm not expecting exactly the section number. No, not at all. I need the concept. So, like you told that 180 days you need to reverse the ITC and it can be reclaimed when you make the payment. So, this concept is clear. Even though you have not written the reference provision, so 16.2 ka second proviso, read with rule 37, not required. Similar fashion, I need the answer that concept of reverse reclaim as is applicable at one more place. Please explain. And that is last question. Please explain in one or two line if possible. You need to explain, not expecting the section number, etc. No, not at all. I'm not asking any section number. Yes, perfect, Mansa. And then. So tell me some date, some month we have discussed. So you have told the reversal ka condition. Absolutely correct. Now please tell the reclaim ka condition. Also, if appreciated, if you can add the month, what is the relevance of the month in this particular point? Right. Supplier failed to make the payment to the government, then I need to reverse my ITC, and then whenever the supplier will make the payment, I can reclaim the ITC. Absolutely could explain. And same rule 37A is talking about that if supplier has not made the payment till next year, 30th September, 30th September after the end of the financial year, then you need to reverse. Recipient need to reverse by 30th November. It's not invoice wise, it's now yearly. You need to check on yearly basis. That's it. Till 30th November without interest, and after that interest would be applicable. Taxes paid till September, then okay, but if not paid till no, then perfect, perfect, perfect. Great, yeah. Mansa, Mohammed Abdul, Prerna, Sneha, and Aniket. Thank you so much. Goodbye to all of you. If I would, we will meet on the next class, and we will definitely solve various practical case study in this ITC chapter. We have the number of classes very much. We have the various, well, I think 6 classes are there for this particular chapter. We will spend good time. Thank you very much. Good night to all of you. Ashokji, request you to wind up the session.